The Dallas Cowboys linebacker room has been a flat-out disaster this season. Anyone watching can see it, the unit just hasn't lived up to expectations. Today, we're diving deep into exactly why things have gone so wrong and what options the Cowboys might have moving forward. From free agency targets to practice squad hopefuls, and even potential internal fixes, we're breaking it all down. But before we go any further, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video, and share it with your fellow fans. And of course, turn on the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, let's be honest, how would you grade this linebacker group so far? Give me your letter grade in the comments, A, B, C, D, or F. The Cowboys tried to shake things up after last season. They traded for Kenneth Murray, brought in Jack Sanborn from Chicago, and kept young talents like DeMarvion Overshown. They also drafted Shemar James, hoping he could develop into a difference-maker. But so far, none of them have looked the part. Kenneth Murray is still the same player he's always been, fast, athletic, even decent as a blitzer. But since Dallas rarely blitzes, that skill doesn't shine. His instincts are shaky, his coverage struggles continue, and too often he's just not where he needs to be. Sanborn, meanwhile, has been serviceable in the past, but here he looks a step slow. Without elite athleticism to make up for it, he's been exposed in coverage and has missed key tackles. Right now, the Cowboys are left with a linebacker room that feels incomplete, a collection of athletes and role players without a true difference maker. Kenneth Murray hasn't just been disappointing, at times, he's been a straight-up liability. And he's not alone. When Dallas finally gave DeMarvion Overshown more snaps in Week 4, he responded with a costly missed tackle, immediately followed by a 15-yard penalty for a late hit. Plays like that can't happen. Overshown flashed some promise as a rookie, but this year he hasn't been the same player. Shemar James, meanwhile, has only seen limited action. He's young, he's athletic, and there's potential there. But right now, he's raw. The Cowboys have used him in passing situations, essentially sliding him into that third-down linebacker role once held by Damone Clark. Still, James is very much in the developmental stage of his career, not someone you can rely on just yet. And speaking of Clark, he continues to be who he's always been. Athletic, rangy, but missing the instincts that separate good linebackers from great ones. This is now the third straight defensive coaching staff to learn the same hard truth. Clark looks the part, but when the pressure's on, he doesn't always process fast enough. That's why his stat sheet fills with tackles but rarely shows game-changing plays like tackles for loss or forced turnovers. So what's next? The Cowboys could keep rolling with their internal options, but let's be real, this group hasn't proven it can hold up. Do they need to look outside for help? Drop your answer in the comments, type Y for yes or N for no. One name already in the building is Justin Barron, currently sitting on the practice squad. He may never be more than a special teams guy in the NFL, but at this point, the Cowboys are desperate for solutions. Why not give him a shot? I'm not completely sold on the current solutions. The Cowboys could experiment with moving safeties into hybrid linebacker roles. Marquise Bell has already shown flashes in that spot. He's undersized and not the most reliable in run support, but his coverage skills make him an interesting option. Dallas could also try giving Donovan Wilson more box reps once Malik Hooker is fully healthy, another outside-the-box idea worth considering. Of course, the big wild card is DeMarvion Overshown. He's been rehabbing from another tough knee injury, with an initial return target around Thanksgiving. There's hope he could be back sooner, but the team may use the full 3-week practice window to ease him in. When healthy, Overshown has looked like the Cowboys' best linebacker, flying all over the field with 90 tackles and 8 tackles for loss last season. He can even blitz off the edge and make life miserable for quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts. But here's the reality. As much as I want Overshown back, banking on a third-year linebacker with 2 major knee injuries is a risky bet. You simply can't put all your faith in that. I honestly thought the Cowboys could get by with Kenneth Murray, Jack Sanborn, and Damone Clark. But at this point, it's clear that's not enough. That's why we need to take a hard look at potential free agent signings and trade targets who could actually stabilize this linebacker room. Now let's talk about free agency. The first name that jumps off the page is a familiar one, Eric Kendricks. Cowboys fans know him well, and while he's clearly not the player he once was, he's still a reliable veteran. Kendricks doesn't have elite speed anymore, but what he brings is instincts. He's usually in the right spot at the right time. And let's be honest, that's exactly what this linebacker unit has been missing. Kendricks recently visited the Baltimore Ravens but reportedly turned down a practice squad role. That means he's still available, and Dallas should at least pick up the phone. Because compared to what we're seeing right now, even a declining Kendricks might be a major upgrade. And it's not just Kendricks. There are other veteran linebackers still on the market, recognizable names who could provide stability and leadership while this young group continues to develop. Let's run through some of the top free agent linebackers still available. First up, Josey Jewell. The longtime Denver Bronco most recently played with the Panthers. Honestly, I was surprised he's still unsigned. Injuries have slowed him down, and at this stage of his career he's not a game-changer. At best, he might give you slightly better production than Jack Sanborn, solid, but not spectacular. Still, compared to what Dallas has now, he's one of the better free agent options. Next, Isaiah Simmons. I'll admit, I thought he was going to be a star when he entered the league. But at this point, Simmons has become one of those, maybe we can fix him, players. Truth is, you probably can't. The potential is still there, but the consistency never has been. Then there's David Long Jr. Undersized, yes, but he's been an effective run defender in the past. The problem is, it just hasn't clicked recently. And honestly, with the current state of the Cowboys' defensive scheme, I'm not confident he'd suddenly turn things around here. Finally, Devondre Campbell. On paper, he's the most notable name. But after essentially walking out on his team, his reputation took a huge hit. At this point, I don't see Dallas, or any contender, taking that gamble. So those are the realistic free agent names. Now the real question becomes, should the Cowboys explore the trade market? And if so, who could actually be available? Drop a comment below, name the linebacker you want to see Dallas target. When it comes to trades, let's be realistic, Dallas isn't giving up a first-round pick for a rental linebacker. That's just not smart team building. But there are names out there worth exploring. First up, Logan Wilson of the Cincinnati Bengals. His snap counts have dipped recently, partly due to injuries around him, and his production hasn't been quite at its peak. But he's still a steady, reliable linebacker on a manageable contract, just over $5 million. If the Bengals decide to sell, this is a name Dallas should absolutely consider. Next, Jordyn Brooks of the Miami Dolphins. He's a Texas native and a very solid linebacker who can cover ground and hit hard. The contract is a little heavier, around $6 to $7 million prorated, but if Miami goes into fire sale mode, Brooks would be one of the most attractive options available. And then there's Demario Davis of the New Orleans Saints. At 36, he's a veteran nearing the end of his career, but make no mistake, he's still playing at a very high level. This would be a true rental, and you'd only consider it for a late-round pick. Ultimately, it may come down to what Davis himself wants. If he decides he's loyal to New Orleans until the end, that's that. But if he's open to a move, the Cowboys should be making that call immediately. Of course, there are always those, maybe, names floating around. If Demario Davis ever wanted to join a contender, Dallas would have to at least listen. But here's the question, does the rest of the league even view the Cowboys as a true contender right now? That's debatable, and it matters. Among other potential trade options, Cody Barton of the Tennessee Titans. He's not a star, but at just over $2 million, he's affordable and probably an upgrade over what Dallas currently has in Jack Sanborn. Still, he ranks behind bigger names like Wilson, Brooks, or Davis. If we're talking about realistic but less exciting options, here's the type of players who could actually be available. Jerome Baker, Browns, once a solid starter, now buried on Cleveland's depth chart. Christian Harris, Texans, a young linebacker with some talent, but he's fallen out of favor in Houston. Tommy Eichenberg, Raiders, a late-round pick who hasn't carved out a role yet. Marte Mapu, Patriots, a linebacker/safety hybrid who could bring coverage ability. These names aren't glamorous, but sometimes depth moves make the difference down the stretch. There are also practice squad options worth keeping an eye on: Anthony Walker, Colts; Sione Takitaki, Vikings; Darius Harris, Patriots; and one I really like, Kazir White. He's athletic, versatile, and can play that linebacker-safety hybrid role. I'm surprised he fell out of favor so quickly, but if Dallas wants more speed and range at linebacker, White could be a sneaky good pickup. Bottom line, once you get to October, the options are slim. If you want star power, you build in March and April. But if the Cowboys are serious about fixing this linebacker room, even small moves could help stabilize things right now.